Hey again, everybody. Just me again on Sunday night. I'm following up. Finished, as I mentioned last night. I finished making, after I shot the video, I made three of the three of the little nuts, and it got to be kind of late, so I finished making the other two today after I finished some yard work. And so now I've got 5 cones and 5 nuts and all the fittings that I made previously. So let me show you. I thought I'd do a quick demonstration of now that I have the nuts. See if I can do this one-handed, show you how the fittings work. Oh, sorry. Maybe if I sat down, make things a little easier here. I can use my knee. So the fitting here, this is the one part with the pipe thread that I showed making those a few weeks ago. And let me switch hands. It is not easy, folks, trying to do all this one-handed. So there we go. Let me unscrew the fitting part. I wanted to show how this all fits together, just in case there's anybody who's tuning in late, as they say on the sports broadcast. So here's a piece of copper pipe. There's the cones that I just finished making. I showed the video of them last night. And here's the nuts that I've made, a few yesterday and a few today. And it's a pretty snug fit over the shoulder. I mean, it's not a tight fit or anything, but fitting the nut over the shoulder of the cone, and that's how it goes on, and then it tightens up on there. So the cone fits into this part that you cut with a countersink, so you have a little bit of angle adjustability. So hopefully that makes sense to everybody. And while I'm explaining, I thought I would go over one more time the plan for the piping of the tender. So bear with me a second. This is the reason I'm doing this. If you're already an experienced live steamer, then you probably don't need to pay attention to this. But the main reason, as I've stated, that I did this channel is I wanted to provide information for the first-time builder, which I am. So wanted to cover the water flow for the hand pump and the axle pump first, and then we'll talk about the injector. So, because the reason I made all these fittings is it's a little different, and it's pretty clever. I got this idea from talking to my local friends, my mentor Fred and Chuck and Pete, and they've followed this along and have given me thoughts and feedback about how I'm doing things. So let's just start with here. There's 3 openings, if you will, on the bottom of the tender. This is the tender, kind of a top view schematic diagram. So there's 3 openings. This was just going to be a drain. We'll talk about that one later. This was an unvalved, gravity-fed drain, if you will, that just fit. There's a brass fitting, and it just goes to provide water into the axle pump. So it's on all the time. As long as it's connected, water will be flowing to the axle pump, and there's a reason for that. So if the locomotive is moving and the axle pump is pumping, then water will pump out of the axle pump, and it'll build up back pressure all the way here. This valve needs to be closed, the bypass valve closed. This is a little schematic of the bypass valve. If the bypass valve is closed, then the water will continue to go back, feedback basically, through the hand pump feed line till it hits the little ball valves that are in the hand pump, and then pressure will back up, and it'll eventually overcome this ball check valve for the boiler, and so you'll be able to add water to the boiler that way. Now, if the locomotive is not moving and you want to add water to the boiler with the hand pump, you just actuate the hand pump. Water will flow here just through to this T. Now the bypass valve needs to be closed also. If the bypass valve is open, you'll just be pumping water back into the tender. But with the bypass valve closed, the water pressure will go through what was the return line, and it won't just automatically go here. It'll actually back up. The pressure will back up to the axle pump. There's a check valve, of course, at the outlet of the axle pump. So it'll hit that ball, and then the pressure will build up, and eventually it'll overcome, and then overcome the boiler check valve, and you'll be able to manually add water to the boiler on that side. So I hope that makes sense. The other things that we have going on here, this is just, there is a injector valve here, water valve, that will meter the flow of water to the injector, and it just goes straight to the injector. Of course, that has other hookups to it, the steam and so forth. But then there's the outlet, and it'll just go straight to the check valve on that side of the boiler. So, like I said, the main reason I do this is because it's complicated, and I've been taking my time building this thing 10 years. I forget stuff, and it's helpful to me to just write it out and make sure I've got it straight and share it with my friends, and they say yeah. So anyway, my game plan is to, now that I've got all the fittings made, I will hopefully get some time this week, and if not the weekend. I've got Columbus Day off, so hopefully get all the fittings and everything installed in the hand pump, and pretty soon get ready for a second steam test. And after that, if all goes well, I should be good to go. So thanks for watching, everybody. I'll keep you posted.